Tonight on Not News. In an effort to find Canadian news off of Meta, I went old school. That's right. I watched cable television, and I took notes. Lots of them. After 2 hours and 15 minutes of watching CBC News, I am mentally and physically uncomfortable. I am going to destroy any chance I have of ever working for the CBC. Oh, there's always the Arts Club. I timed, codified, and categorized 531 minutes of Canadian news content, 21% of which was ads, leaving me with 418 minutes of news programming. I'm rounding these numbers because this isn't a statistics for the social sciences class. These were the most covered topics on Canadian news in the last 2 weeks. Donald Trump, 15%. Wildfires, 10.7%. The economy, 9%. Alberta pausing green energy programs, 5.6%. Taylor Swift, 3.3%. Let's be honest, Taylor Swift should have been way more. She's coming to Toronto! But not Vancouver! I hope you think of us. It is crazy to me that the most talked about topic in Canada is the American president. Do we not have a leader? What was he up to? We're not going there. We don't do that. Even more crazy is that on August 3rd, Trump's arraignment coverage was 58% of the CBC's programming. And it wasn't even good coverage. It was like, here's his motorcade. Oh, here's his plane. Let's check in at the courthouse, where he hasn't even gotten yet, because he's still in the motorcade that hasn't even made it to the plane yet. Here's an interview with a former FBI agent. We'll mention 10 more times that he is a former FBI agent. We're going to use the word unprecedented 15 times in one interview, 3 times in 10 seconds, and then joke about how we need a thesaurus. Maybe it's a game like in Super Troopers. Meow, it's not just the words they repeat, it's the same stories and the same footage over and over and over. They don't change the teleprompter between shows, they just change the anchor. Meanwhile, the market at the bottom is rolling 17 different stories in a 5-minute loop. TELUS cut 6,000 jobs. Employment is up. Housing crisis. Northwest Territories being evacuated. That seems important! Why are we staring at an empty tarmac? Granted, later in the week, the marquee stories became the headline news, but not while Trump was in the back of an Escalade in Jersey. 3 hours of the news, there was only one mention of a Canadian public policy, and that was to put labels on alcohol stating that it causes cancer. Yup. Once we finally break for ads, half of them are for the CBC Gem app, because, you can't get the news on here. And for other programs that'll run later, where you can see a different person say the same thing that they're saying right now. I mean, it's shameless self-promotion. The only exception on CBC was Power and Politics, which takes a Canadian issue and interviews 2 opposing sides. It's the Jerry Springer of journalism. Why don't you tell us calmly why you vehemently disagree with everything this person just said? I also watched 4 different Vancouver local news at 6, which I actually enjoyed. They reminded me of youthful summer nights sitting in my grandfather's basement, watching Marcia McMillan on CTV Toronto talking about the X. Might actually explain a particular preference I have. They all hit the same major stories, interviewed the same people, and had the same questions. But they each had their own variety of side stories and little community shorts. Except CTV Vancouver, who in the first 15 minutes ran a story on 4 deaths, 3 animal deaths, 1 animal injury, a car crash, blood on the streets, tornado damage, and fires. Hey, CTV? Y'all okay? Overall, they all tell you the same story. Well, some show you blood, others show you a dog in a rainbow shirt. It's your medicine. Take it how you will. My biggest takeaway from this oversaturation of the news is that it feels like the news is events happening to us. We're not participants, we're spectators at best, and it just leaves you feeling helpless. The last few years, my solution was to not watch the news at all. I didn't have the capacity to care when my bank account balance was less than my rent. Now, I don't have any of the responsibilities of most people. If I had a mortgage, a wife, kids, I would still be in that hyper-focused survival mode. You could tell me there are aliens here, and I would say, tell them to get over here and help, or piss off. Sound familiar? If disdain and despondence normalizes in our society, so too will helplessness. Policies will just be something the government passes. Elections will just be something that happens. Politicians may as well be aliens. Liberal, conservative, NDP, Green, are they here to help me with this right now that I need? Then piss off. HBO, please cast me as a young Logan Roy. This is why the news is important. This is why access to the news is important. This is why it is important to be informed. Because if we don't care, if we don't pay attention, if we're not informed, other people will make choices for us, and we will be exactly that, spectators. An election year is right around the corner, and our access to news is being diminished. So if you want to know what's not news in Canada, I'll be right here.